Andrew spent $36,000 starting up his Amazon business. But in his first year selling this product on Amazon, he ended up making over $330,000. And we're going to list out every single cost that he had. But Andrew, tell us your story. How were you able to create this business and start selling on Amazon?
So I was working about 15 years in oil and gas. I was always away from my family. And then COVID hit. All of a sudden, our industry got gutted. Oil prices went to about $17 a barrel. And I found myself without a job. In addition to that, we had our second child on the way. Weren't sure how we were going to pay the bills. So one night I was in my garage working on a project. And basically, I was tinkering away, trying to fix something on the workbench. There wasn't really much room, and my tools were piled up all around me. I realized the tool I needed was at the bottom of the pile. And I kept looking up thinking, man, I wish I could just hang my tools up so I could grab it, use it, put it away, nice and easy. The tools didn't really fit in any other storage option. So I thought, I'm going to go online and see what I can find. And then I went online, couldn't find anything, didn't exist. So I said, well, I guess I have to make it.
So you ended up buying a 3D printer, which cost $500. And then you bought all the materials for the 3D printer, which cost another $500.
Yeah, that's right. And so I downloaded some free CAD software, figured out how to use that, played around with the 3D printer, printed some things just to test it out. And then I started making prototypes. So I ended up getting to the point where I had a working prototype and I installed it and I solved my own problem. And I kind of just shelved the idea for a while. But because of COVID, I kind of had to revisit that. And I thought, you know what? I think I could make a real business out of this.
And make sure to like this video because we're going to list out all of the expenses that Andrew had to turn his business from a cool idea into a real business. And make sure to stay to the end of this video because at the end, he's going to talk about a mistake he made that cost him $20,000. So make sure you stay till the end. But the next cost you had to turn this into a real business was to hire some CAD designers. And the first one you hired cost $1,500. How did you find him? And talk a little bit about that.
So I guess maybe that was one of the mistakes I made early on is I just went with somebody that was local, somebody that was easily accessible. And it ended up costing me a lot because they were charging $75 an hour, which was a real premium. I didn't really know about Fiverr at that time or Upwork. And yeah, and so I also knew that my skills at the CAD design were quite limited and I had to start employing professionals if I was going to make a finished retail good.
And eventually you found another CAD designer for $20 an hour and you found them through Fiverr or Upwork.
They were actually local, but after I had that initial experience, I realized, you know what, the work level that I was getting wasn't as high as I wanted, and the cost was obviously far too high. So I started shopping around, and that's when I really discovered the person that could take me through to the finish line.
And so you spent another $1,000 on that second person. The next expense you had was you had this great idea and you wanted to make sure that it was protected. And so you ended up filing for a provisional patent, which costs $75. Talk
Yeah.
about what is a provisional patent and how can people protect their ideas?
Yeah, I mean, if you have an idea, obviously patenting and trademarking is a really scary subject for a lot of people. The USPTO changed the rules about 6 or 8 years ago, and they created this thing called the America Invents Act. What it allows you to do is an individual can write their own provisional patent application and submit it on their own behalf for $75. Now, previous to that, you'd have to pay for a lawyer, and patent lawyers are not cheap. I mean, it can cost in the tens of thousands of dollars. So it's just a way for you to protect your idea. You have a year from that point to try to explore your idea, see if you can get a business going. And at that point, you're allowed to disclose and tell people about it.
The next step that you need to do was to get a mold because this is a product that is injection molded and you need to create a mold for that, which costs $20,000. Tell me about how you got the mold and why you needed this mold.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can manufacture something. And obviously 3D printing isn't really a sustainable thing for mass market.
Mhm.
So I knew I had to go to the injection molding route. It also results in a much stronger product. I knew I wanted to make this domestically. I wanted to put a lifetime warranty on it, and I wanted to make it a really high quality product. I'm not really interested in competing with some of the, overseas less expensive products. And yeah, I knew I needed to do this right. And so I went and got quotes from a bunch of different manufacturers. I checked their references, fortunately, because I almost got roped into working with one that was a little unscrupulous. And I ended up finding a really great partner just 15 minutes away from my house. They injection mold everything for me. The mold that I had made, I own that mold, and then they just use it to produce the parts.
So this is something that once you have the mold, it's going to make it very inexpensive to make every individual unit. So it's an asset for your business that you're going to be able to use over and over again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The next expense you had was turning this business into a real legal business, and that cost you around $750. Talk about how you did that.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, you can register your business fairly inexpensively. I think it's important to get an LLC or a limited company that keeps the liability away from you. So, if something failed in the product, somebody was injured. And then also, we never really talked about it too much, but you also need some insurance, some basic business insurance. I think the cost can be a few $100s a month, depending on the risk involved with your product.
Is there any other expenses to get started?
Yeah, so I mean, when you make a physical product, you're gonna end up with packaging and you need a barcode. So you go to GS1, that is the official barcode database keeper, and you have a set of barcodes for about $250.
Yeah. And nowadays you can get just one barcode if you want for $30. And your first production run ended up costing you $6,700. How many units of your product were you able to produce for that?
Yeah, that's about 500 units retail ready.
And then from there, once they manufacture the units, you had to get them to ship it from their facility to you. How much did that cost?
Actually, nothing because they're in the same town as me. And so they're only about 15 minutes away. So I just go pick up my product directly.
But once you get the products, you still have to pay for shipping to get into the Amazon warehouse. How much did that cost you?
Absolutely. That runs about $650 for that particular run.
And the reason that Andrew shipped his products into the Amazon warehouse is when people go to Amazon to buy a product, if they're in Amazon's warehouse, it makes it so those products are then Prime eligible. And people are much more likely to buy products that are Prime eligible.
Amazon's got this huge network of warehouses right across the country. And once you send your product into Amazon, they actually distribute it for you across the nation. So anywhere somebody's located, they can always get that product quickly, which is more likely for them to buy.
And this is why I always recommend using Amazon FBA. And FBA stands for Fulfilled by Amazon. It's going to make it so your business runs easier and it's going to ultimately mean more money for you. And the next step to selling on Amazon is you have to create a listing on Amazon's website. And one important thing that a lot of people forget about is that Amazon, at the end of the day, is a search engine. People go to Amazon to search for things, and you want to make sure that your product is showing up at the top of the search results for things that people are searching. So you need to figure out what are people searching for in Amazon and use those phrases in your title. How did you figure out what people are searching for in Amazon so you could use those phrases in your title?
So there's awesome tool. It's a software tool called Helium 10. There are a couple of other software tools out there, but Helium 10 really has the full suite. I mean, they have some really cool stuff. I use that to search for keywords. I can compare it to what my competitors are doing or other people in the space. And then something else, they actually had a really cool feature called Scribbles,
Hmm.
and it lets you build your listing out. So you can figure out which keywords you have in there, which ones are missing. It'll tell you if your title is too short or too long, and then it helps you build the bullet points. I found that super helpful.
And that tool does cost money, but I do have a discount code to get you 50% off. You can use Travis50, link in the description down below. The next cost that you had was actually the photos for your listing. Did you take the photos yourself? Did you hire someone for that? How did that work?
Yeah, so I actually started off using my own photos and, just to get going, it was the easiest and cheapest way to do it. After a while, once I had some sales under my belt, I realized that was something that I could really improve upon. So once I had some revenue, I did go back and hire a professional agency to do it for me. If you want, I can give you a link for that too. But basically, I was able to upgrade my photos, up my game, and then that increased the sales too.
What did it end up costing you once you upgraded?
About $650.
And the last expense you had was getting your logo trademark. And this is so you could have access to brand registry. How much did that cost you? And any advice for anyone out there?
Yeah, so when I first joined Amazon, they had a program. It was an accelerator program, and you had to use one of the 12 law firms that they approved. I did that, and it cost me about $1,800 all in. But now they've actually changed the rules. You don't have to use those. You can actually go to any firm you want, so you can shop around for a better price. I've seen there are places on Fiverr, for example, and also you can actually do it yourself.
And that's going to only cost you around $275 if you do it yourself. And it's not difficult to do. I've done this. My girlfriend's done this. A lot of the students in my course have done this themselves. So at this point, you've spent over $30,000 on your business and you haven't even launched yet. How do you feel in this moment?
Well, obviously pretty nervous. I mean, especially committing that much money to the mold and not being certain that it was going to come out the way I wanted to. Uh, really nervous about that. But at the same time, I had just finished working, so I had a little bit of money in the bank, and I figured if I ever was going to have an opportunity to do this, it was going to be right now. So I just went for it.
But when you did launch this product on Amazon, in your first year of sales for just this one product, you ended up doing $147,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
But as people know, revenue is not profit. There's a lot of costs associated with running a business. And your first cost was manufacturing all these products, how much did it cost you to manufacture all the products you sold in that first year?
So it was about $52,000 in total.
And then the next cost that you had was the Amazon selling fee. And there's a 15% fee just to sell on the Amazon platform. How much did you spend on that Amazon selling fee?
I think it was a little over 22,000.
And how do you feel about spending 15% on your Amazon selling fee?
I thought about it from the perspective of a retail store. If you go into a store, they're going to want 40 or 50%. So 15 didn't really seem that bad.
The next fee that you had is the Amazon FBA pick and pack fee. And this is the fee that every time you get a sale from the Amazon website, Amazon picks, packs, and ships out the product. It includes the shipping, the handling, includes everything. How much money did you spend on that fee?
It was about $16,500. But I mean, if I had to do it myself, it would have been another probably double that. And plus I would have had to been driving to the post office all the time.
So you ended up saving money and saving a lot of your time using Amazon FBA.
Yeah, I'd hate to say it.
And the last cost you had for running your business was PPC, which stands for pay per click. This is a way for you to advertise your product on Amazon so that your product comes up at the top of the search results, meaning that people are more likely to click on your product and buy your product. How much money did you spend on Amazon's PPC?
Well, it probably cost around 12,000. I mean, I looked at some other platforms and costs involved, and that seemed to be a pretty good price.
And it totaled in your first year, you ended up making $42,000 profit.
Yeah.
How did you feel your first year ever selling on Amazon, making $42,000 profit?
Well, I mean, I was really excited because it showed that the product had potential. That was my proof of concept and everything. Obviously 42,000 would be pretty tight to live on depending on what you're used to, but I saw the potential and I knew I had some other ideas. I had learned the process. I was learning the Amazon platform, and all the other software tools involved. And so I really saw some potential. So I got really excited.
But you didn't stop there. So
No.
you've done this process once. So what you did, which was really smart, is you realized that you could do this again with another product.
So we ended up developing this tool organization system. It protects and stores tools and equipment. It can be used in the home or mobile units. Basically, it's just an accessory for any kind of cordless power tools.
And I'll put links down below if you want to check out Andrew's product. And then with your next products and total in your first year selling on Amazon, because you launched those products within that same first year, how much money in revenue on Amazon did you do in your first year about?
About 228,000. Something I realized is the product I had could actually be split up and packaged in different ways. So even though it was only one product with two different components, I could package them in different combinations. And that allowed me to build out a few more SKUs and add more to the portfolio, which ultimately led to more sales. So the lesson I took away there was add some more SKUs if you have a winner.
And the next thing you realized is why stop selling on Amazon? Because you're selling a passion product. You're selling a unique product that doesn't exist in other places. So you started selling on some other platforms as well. What other platforms did you sell?
So starting on Amazon, I also went to Etsy, I went to eBay, and then I also expanded to other Amazon marketplaces in different countries. And then I also developed my own website as well.
So I know in Etsy, you did about $35,000 in revenue. And then in retail sales, you did about another $70,000 in revenue. So in total, your first year ever selling a product online, you did over $300,000 in sales, which is around $70,000 in profit, which is really amazing because if you can do that once, you can double it very easily by adding more SKUs, by going into more platforms. At this point, how did you feel?
Well, that really showed me the potential and the power of e-commerce. And, I've got tons of ideas in my head and I'm super excited because now I know the process and I can just build that out.
What's even crazier is this year, your second year ever selling on Amazon, you're on track to do over $500,000. How do you feel about that?
I'm super pumped. I mean, the great thing is across all the different sales channels that we've developed out and with the help of moving into a little bit of retail, we're actually gonna potentially be on track to do 550,000 this year. And at this point, I'm actually profiting more than what I used to make at my previous job. So I'm over the moon.
And this is an important point. In your first year, you might not make as much money as your job, but by your second, third, fourth year, you have unlimited upwards mobility, unlimited potential to make pretty much as much money as you want if it's your own business.
And the other thing too is I don't have to stop with my own products. I mean, I can also sell other products on Amazon, but now that I know the process, I know the software, and I know what to do, it's just a matter of scaling.
And the third lesson you learned, and we'll talk about this before we get into the biggest mistake you made that cost you $20,000, is that done is better than perfect. And this is a huge lesson. This is something that I teach to everybody that joins my Amazon FBA program. And Andrew's actually a member of the PPF program, but you talked about how done is better than perfect. Talk a little bit about what that meant for you and why people at home should listen.
Yeah, that was a message that I got from you in the course. Basically, I was really stuck in analysis paralysis. I think a lot of people do get there. You know, you want to make sure your product is perfect and everything is great. And the reality is that held me back.
Mm.
You know, I could have had this product on the market probably a year earlier if I had just moved forward. And like I said, that lesson, done is better than perfect, even if it's 90%. I mean, this is really version one. And there's always opportunity to make the next version and the next iteration. Besides, half the time the customer feedback tells you the way you should go. And so I really think it's most important just to get the product out there, get the feedback, and then move forward and innovate further rather than wait till you think it's perfect. Because what you think is perfect might not be what the customer wants.
And really, this mistake of analysis paralysis probably cost Andrew about $70,000. Because if he would have launched his Amazon business the year earlier, he would have made that $70,000 a year earlier. Plus, he might have even been making more money right now. But now let's get into the biggest mistake you made that almost cost you $20,000.
Yeah, so I mentioned before that when I ordered this mold, it was $20,000, and I was really nervous about whether it was going to fit or not. So unfortunately, the person that made the mold for me was not able to test it, and I had to just accept it, pay them in full before I ever received the mold to see if it was going to work. So when I got it, I actually tested it out, and it didn't quite work. I was freaking out. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was thinking it was gonna be a boat anchor and I was gonna have to go find another $20,000 to try, which I didn't have, to try to have another one made. And we came up with a pretty clever solution. The first pieces that came out of the mold actually had a little bit of a problem because they were too loose. They didn't correctly fit the way they were supposed to. So I ended up climbing inside the machine with a Dremel tool. And I mean, this is our brand new mold, $20,000. I'm freaking out. And the thought of taking a crude tool and doing a freehand modification on it scared the heck out of me. It ended up resulting in a much tighter fit. We got a little bit lucky, and now if you see the two pieces when they engage, they actually snap together and lock. So it was an accidental benefit, and I actually carried that modification forward in all my other designs.
And this is a common trend I see oftentimes when you think that your business has failed, you just wasted $20,000. If you use a little bit of ingenuity, you might be able to not only fix the problem, but it might result in a product that's even better. And if you're looking to start your own Amazon FBA business, I have an entire playlist of free videos that you can get by clicking right here. It's a free step-by-step Amazon FBA beginner's guide to starting your business. So click on that playlist and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.